Welcome to The Problem, a Lockwood and Co podcast. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Alan.
And this week we are talking about the end of part 3, The Bloody Footprints.
Yeah.
Finally, we can move on from this confusing way we've split part 3 up.
I think the next one has 5 chapters as well. I was trying to
We're just fucked forever. Gotcha.
Yeah. It was like, should we move into the next part too?
No.
Just to see how Lockwood's doing, but it really would not have worked at all.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. So
Yeah.
at one point when I was reading chapter 11, I was like, have I already gone into chapter 12? Because it was so much.
It just keeps going and you're like, wow.
Not in a bad way, just like a lot was happening.
Yeah.
So, chapter 11. George and Lucy try to research little Tom at the National Archives, but Lucy looks up Jessica's obituary instead. I feel like a lot more than that happens in this chapter, but I guess that is kind of the driving part.
Yeah. And I was like, is it an obituary? It's just a report, but whatever.
Maybe they have they say don't send flowers at the end. So that's
true.
That's obituary themed. And it was probably written by not a person connected to the family, since the only family left was Lockwood and he was like 11.
And it's also like, we'll talk about it when we get there, but it's brutal. Whoever wrote it is an asshole.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So the chapter art is one of the newspapers that they are looking up at the archives when they go.
Yeah, this is like, I guess this is what books look like. It doesn't look anything like a Kindle, so
No.
I guess.
It's one of those old,
No, I know. Yeah. It's like newspapers bound together for like a whole month, that kind of thing. Yeah. No, it looks exactly like, it's actually really good.
I didn't have to squint. So we start off still at the house that they're investigating the ghosts at, pretty much right where we left off last time. And they are watching the bloody footprints as they fade and timing them. And just to start off on the wrong foot, as it were.
Nice.
Everyone immediately, in Lucy said anyway, tells her that she has big feet and is not petite and tiny. And that she's just too much.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
She's too big.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're basically like, I think she says we should measure these feet, just to get an idea. And Lockwood's like, oh, they're small. They're slim and slender. So they must be little Toms and not the other guy, Robert Cook.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, who has the smallest feet here? And George is like, Holly does, obviously. And Lockwood's like, of course, she has the perfect feet.
Yeah. I feel like these chapters are just Lucy slowly getting stabbed over and over again until she just can't take it anymore and starts stabbing back even worse.
Do you think that Lockwood knows what he's doing?
No, not here.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, he does.
Yeah, I think so.
Unless he's more of an idiot than even I think he is.
Yeah.
But this conversation, no.
No, yeah, I agree. I don't think he does. Yeah.
If he did know here, then it would just be cruel.
Yeah.
Right?
It is like a kind of nothing thing. Like for her to get her feelings hurt is a little bit silly, but I totally understand it.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely like I would say Stroud doesn't even tell us that she gets her like I don't even think we really get a reaction from Lucy here other than she speaks a little differently.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
I spoke through gritted teeth. She's not even here.
Right. Yeah.
And then later on she's blah, blah, blah. And then I said tartly. You can tell that she's a little put out, but it, like, even Lucy's thoughts don't bring it up. Because that would be too much.
Yes.
Anyways, they just kind of recap the case a little bit.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out where the source is. They are not sure if it's at the top of the stairs, the bottom, maybe the middle. There's a good moment here I think, where Lockwood is like, hey, Lucy, enough of that poor little guy stuff when she's talking about the ghost. And we're just like re-emphasizing the two ways that we're like dealing with ghosts in this book. Lucy's way of like sympathy and empathy, and Lockwood's way of like, they must all be destroyed.
But then he says, he kind of blames Holly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this one, I don't know. Either he is trying to make it not about him and his opinions, or
okay, where you're talking about, like, he says all the big agencies follow this policy, Holly says.
Yeah. He didn't have to say Holly says there. He could have taken responsibility for this opinion that he has.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he could have just stopped at all the big agencies follow that policy.
Yeah, I think it does like needle her. This is what sets her over the edge.
Yeah.
It does go back to that thing that I think happened between Lockwood and Kipps, where Kipps was like,
absolutely.
Yeah, you're not a real agency. And to him, like, Holly is the answer to that. And so he's like, I'm citing my source. Like this, you know, like you can't argue with Holly. I mean, she's perfect. And Lucy's like, oh my God.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. It's terrible. And that's like the second time that Lucy gets a little bit stabbed here.
Yeah, she says, I didn't intend to be angry. And I knew that he was right. Like there's a lot of like retroactive, like she's writing this after the fact. And she's like, but, and then she goes on to defend the child ghost and is like, we should have empathy. And she goes too far because she like needles Lockwood's trauma of his sister dying.
I almost feel like this chapter and part of the next one is when, because you talk about how Lucy is fascinated is not the word I'm looking for, whatever, by the mystery of Lockwood.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is when she's like, fuck that.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, the mystery is not, I need to know everything. The mystery is not helping us. Yeah,
because this is really uncomfortable and they're really not getting along very well. And I think she's never going to get what she wants from Lockwood. So she has to go get it for herself. I
feel like these two chapters also exemplify why this is my least favorite book in the series. It's not just the Holly and Lucy being angry at each other, but it's the constant tension.
Yeah.
I just can't take it. I don't enjoy it. I get that it's needed. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. It's just not what I enjoy reading.
Yeah, it's really bad in these two chapters for whatever reason. It feels like it's really like coming to a head here between Lucy and Lockwood.
And then he adds in Holly when they come back, and it's just like, it's like the ending when, except at the ending things are allowed to boil over. You know, Lucy and Holly end up screaming at each other.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Nobody does, and it's all just kept buried, and I can't stand it.
It really does foreshadow the ending. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lockwood immediately shuts Lucy down because he kind of silently plays the dead sister card.
Yeah. She knows that she went too far in some sense. Like she's lost the argument. She lost the moral high ground. And she just gives up.
Lucy says the footprints faded away. They had the right idea. We more or less did the same. And that's the metaphor for them going home.
Yeah. And then when they go home, she finds out that Holly has gone in her room.
Cleaned her room.
Yeah.
Yep. This would drive me bananas. Like, I would lose my fucking mind. I would not even keep it polite. I would scream at her.
Yeah. But
I am a very private person, so... But it is also very spy-type behavior, if we're keeping track of that, to clean, quote-unquote, everyone's room.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And I bet if Lucy had lost it on her, it would make Lucy look extremely unreasonable. Yeah, so that she could never say anything again, really. Right.
And that's what I'm here to do. I'm doing my job. Yeah. Yeah, she's upset about it, but then she just forgets. She's so upset. But she's also repressing so much she doesn't even remember to bring it up. Yeah. Because they're all like in the kitchen and very somber because something went down in Chelsea and they're reading the newspaper.
Yeah. And this is when we learned that Ned Shaw died.
A tragedy. A true
Yeah, I'm
loss.
so upset. Oh my God. But you do get the impression, and I actually really like how he framed this, he being Stroud, because they're in the kitchen, which has always been their home space, you know?
Yeah.
Their comforting space. But for Lucy, anyway, she can't really feel that because Holly's there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're trying to sort of bond over this dead acquaintance of theirs, but Lucy just can't.
And it's also like she gives some sense of sympathy around Ned Shaw, but can't welcome in Holly at the same time. I just find that energy really interesting. Someone who's literally been their enemy and is outside of their camp. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's too bad. And Holly talks about like, oh, I used to lose people and it's always really difficult. And she's like, yeah, whatever. Like, who cares?
Oh, no, this makes total sense to me. When somebody is when you're like in your feelings and somebody is trying to understand your feelings, it makes you want to punch them. Just let me be. Like, just let me feel what I'm feeling. I don't know. Mostly in these chapters, I think Lucy is very in the wrong. But right here, I do think Holly could shut up.
Mm-hmm.
She never knew Ned. She doesn't know what's happening here. She doesn't know that they didn't like him.
Yeah.
As far as Holly knows, they could have been friends, and she's trying to insert herself here. No, she should shut up. I'm sorry.
I think she feels a little on the outside because of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Holly's not having a great time here, 100%, but it is not her who just lost a friend.
No, I get it. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that's what she's trying to do is trying to be like, oh, I've gone through this too. Like, I'm here for you guys. I'm a part of this. And then Lucy's like, no, you're not. You're not.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I'm saying. In this particular instance, I don't think she is. Mm-hmm. But mostly the rest of the chapter, Lucy's the one in the wrong who's being a bitch.
It's just interesting how her character is so much, especially in this book, and it's really, really underlined, is like, I'm going to connect with what Lockwood considers to be the enemy of the ghosts and everything. But then my ally, on paper, I don't have any room for her at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. And then Holly sort of adds another nail to the coffin when she says, would you like a whole wheat waffle?
This seems like a way to ruin waffles. I'm not sure what's happening here.
I'm sure they taste fine.
Yeah.
Whole wheat flour is not that different than regular flour. She could have just said, do you want a waffle?
Yes. Yeah. Do you want a diet waffle, Lucy? Do you?
Like, wow. Wow.
I feel like that's how Holly is with Lucy.
I definitely, yeah, absolutely. But just after the little feet thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
I'm just going to.
It's the worst.
Like, oh, it's terrible. And like, Holly doesn't know about that. I'm not blaming Holly. From Lucy's perspective, it's just over and over and over again. She's being told she's not good enough. Yeah. Even though nobody is actually saying that. That's not what anybody said.
No, that's her telling herself that. Even when she walks into the room, she like notices Holly's outfit and it looks really sharp. And then she compares it to her pajamas that she just rolled out of bed in.
And that's the thing. We never see what Holly sleeps in.
Yeah.
We never see her before she's put together.
It's not fair. She's not being fair to herself at all.
She's not being fair to herself. But and also, like, it does feel, I'm not saying it is, but from Lucy's perspective, it can feel strategic on Holly's part that she never allows them to see her at her worst.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just totally because of who Holly is and how she had.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's a strategic thing. I think it's just like a normal thing.
She's like, this is how I survive. I have to be perfect.
Not even just that, but like, she's going to work. She's going to look nice. Like, she's at the office, like that makes sense. They're just clashing.
They clash to the point where Lockwood is like, well, you guys could work together this afternoon. And Lucy's like, actually, I would rather go to the library.
Yep.
with George. So we know that this is extreme.
But also that comes right after, everybody having plans. And then Holly says, oh, Lucy doesn't want to stay with me. She'll have something more important to do. And Lockwood saying, I'm not sure she does. I don't think so. I was like, okay.
Yeah, so she's going to go help George at the newspaper archive.
But first we have to run into Kip's.
Right, yeah. We do run into all of Kips's team, what's left of it.
We also get a moment of where we just see that tensions are high in the city.
Mm-hmm.
People are arguing on the streets, and George thinks it's stupid because come dark, they're all just going to stop arguing and lock themselves up anyways.
Yeah, I think that's really important, actually. There's like a confrontation between kind of a ghost cult place and the local patrol of adults, I guess. It seems like the most useless thing, where they're trying to throw lavender on the ghost church people on their building, and the ghost church people are like, don't do that.
It feels like a neighborhood watch.
Yes.
They just go out and throw lavender everywhere during the day. And the ghost cult doesn't want that there because I guess they, to a degree, welcome the ghosts, even though they do know that they will die. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. No, that feels like very real to me. Like you're...
Oh, yeah. 100%.
They're both just doubling down.
The adults trying to have some control over the situation when they have zero control over the situation.
Yep.
That's the most real to me.
Yeah. I like Lucy calls them, they are all equally clueless, which I really like.
And that must be great when you're reading this as a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an awkward conversation. Kip's does not... I feel bad for Kip's. He seems very vulnerable. He does not have a lot of time for them. But this does do like an important plot thing of George getting some information that sets him down the path that he's going to go on in this book.
Yeah, the whole situation is just terrible because they don't even get the night off. Their teammate died and they don't get the night off.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
these are children.
I know. He's like, how am I going to do all this stuff? I have to go to a funeral. That's one of the things he says.
He says that, and he says, we're out again tonight on a 3-line whip. I don't know what that is. Barnes has us all performing like so many dancing bears.
Mm.
That's terrible. Recently, somebody in the office that I work in passed away. I didn't know this person. I knew who they were, but I didn't really know them. And we had grief counselors on site. If people needed to go home, it was fine. All these things. And we're all adults.
Mm-hmm.
And then these kids are just ignored, basically, and told. And this was a close working companion of theirs. Part of their little homemade family. Well, business-made family.
Right.
And they just got to keep going. That's terrible. This is possibly the first time I feel sorry for Kip's.
Yeah, and you can tell he's been crying or he's been losing sleep over it or something.
Yeah. And he's upset with them, but it's nowhere near their usual banter. And the others don't join in any sort of the ribbing that they normally do.
It's very they're very quiet. They're very already beaten up is how it feels like.
Yeah.
And he's just mad. He's like, I don't want to talk to you guys. Just go away.
And even George doesn't say anything mean to them. It was just Kip's kind of trying to start shit, but not really. And then George is like, give me that paperwork, that information that you have. I will study it. And George has a whole diatribe. And then Kip's is just like, oh, here you go. Didn't know you could feel passionately about things.
We also find out here, Kip's is kind of outraged that there's going to be a carnival of some kind or a celebration.
Oh, yes, the carnival. Yeah.
That really
a distraction.
stings too. A distraction. That's right. Yeah. And it's just crazy because I think that calls back to the tension that the adults were feeling. This is a release valve for that whole
It's
thing.
in the whole book, the tension that I hate.
Yeah. It really is what this book is.
Yeah.
It's a slap in the face when you're feeling that kind of grief to be like, we're going to throw a party and like, just ignore, we're taking back the night. Just ignore the ghosts in the middle of this crisis.
But then George and Lucy do walk on to the archives and start trying to research more of what happened at the house and more of what's going on with these ghosts. But they aren't having much luck. And then George eventually starts looking some stuff up on the... I can remember this asshole's name. Orpheus.
Orpheus. I was like the mythological Society. Character.
Yeah. Yes, I could never remember Orpheus's name. I have a real problem with it.
Yeah, the Orpheus Society. Yeah. And so he wants to know more about the lady that they're working for has the brooch from the society, and he wants to know more about it. It occurs to me, so he's never done this before. He's never looked it up because he never had a name to go with the symbol, so he didn't know what to look up.
And then this, of course, inspires Lucy to look something else up for herself.
She's like, "Oh, we can look up contemporary things? I didn't think about that."
And so she goes to look up Lockwood in recent newspapers, 6 years ago, and she finds Jessica's obituary.
Yeah, where it says her younger brother was unable to stop the attack, which just must live in Lockwood's heart, I think.
Yep. I mean, hopefully he never read this.
I feel like he had to have.
Yeah,
he had to see. It was like, basically he murdered her is how that reads to me. It's crazy.
That is terrible. And we also get confirmation that his parents are dead, which I don't remember if we've had actual confirmation of that. Like, it's just been assumed because they're not around.
Yeah, I guess it also, but it gives a timeline to it. Like, they were dead before this happened. And
they're referred to as psychic researchers.
Right. Yeah. So in this tiny little article, she finds out like the name of Lockwood's parents, the circumstances that they were dead, the way that Jessica died, all this information that Lockwood has never told her in them working together for like more than a year.
I do think that this was kind of wrong of her to look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if somebody's not ready to tell you things, they're not ready to tell you things. That's just how that goes. Like, if Lucy expects privacy from Holly, she should respect Lockwood wanting privacy.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that you are supposed to, like, kind of notice that, right?
Yeah. So I don't feel great about this. But, like, everyone's in a real bad place. Everyone. Everyone except maybe George is in a real bad place right now. George has just been given like 3 mysteries to research, so he's great. Yeah,
he's happy. He's in his element. There was like, you can tell that George is a little bit oblivious too. We kind of skipped over it, but like, before they talk to Kipps, he has like this kind of autistic coded moment where he's like, "I know the reason why you're here. Like, I understand what's really going on with you." And then she starts talking about Holly, and he's like, "What are you talking about? That's not what's going on."
But it's good because I think it sets him up for understanding everything later when he does try to talk to Lucy.
Yeah.
So then chapter 12.
Where in chapter 12, George shows up late with some crucial information. Lockwood gets knocked out, and Holly saves Lucy from a fatal fall. So really the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah. Oh, I remember the first time I read that being like, oh no. Like, not Holly.
Not Holly.
Like, it's the exact reaction that the author wanted you to have. I had it. So the chapter art, I had like forgotten the circumstances of how Lucy gets like into a conversation with this ghost. So I was looking at it and I was like, I feel that is more footprints than are described in this book.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know, I was like, why so many footprints? But I forgot that it was like after everything when she gets and he comes like walking over to her.
Yeah.
He meets her at her circle there.
Yeah, because that's what the picture is. There's like a chain circle and then it's surrounded by, it's like the ghost has been pacing around the circle trying to get her attention.
Lucy goes back to Portland Row while George is going to go to a different building in the archives and try to look up something else because they haven't found anything yet. And when she gets back, she's greeted with Holly all dressed up to go on the job with them tonight.
If she's got a rapier and a leather coat, she's ready to... She's got Lockwood's sweater on.
I was going to say she's wearing her boyfriend's sweater.
Oh my God, it still smells like him. It's that one is a real, like, then I feel really bad for Lucy.
Why would you say that? Unless she's saying it in the, like, ooh tone of voice.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only situation, unless she's being specifically mean to Lucy, which I don't get that feeling from Holly.
Yeah, sometimes she is. I don't know what this, unless she's just commenting on it.
She's specifically mean about Lucy's lack of, like, cleanliness.
Yeah, not this kind of thing. Not this, like, I know this will really hurt you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is perfect.
It's just like another stab. So bad.
Yeah, so they go back and forth and they really do, like, kind of get on each other's nerves. Lucy or Holly says a thing here that I think is, like, it just sums up her whole... I think this is where I was like, oh, this is her trauma response. I think this is where I got it from. Where Holly says to her, I can only do my best. And then Lucy says, I just hope it'll be enough. And that's like her whole... I think that's just in her head all the time.
Lucy is being a bit of an ass here.
Oh yeah, that's mean. That's like, I think that's exactly her fear is, hopefully it'll be enough. I mean, she just got fired, basically, like soft fired from, like, the second biggest agency in London after like a career, where she did, like, the very best that she could. I just feel like she is not sure who she is. She's, like, going through a crisis, an existential crisis. And I don't think Lucy can see that.
No, absolutely not. Like, this is obviously good writing. I'm not saying it shouldn't have happened this way, but, like, Lucy had me 100% on her side, until she started being a bitch. It's good for the story, and it is exactly what would have happened. Like I said, with the whole stabbing metaphor over and over again. So, of course, she's so mean here. Yeah.
And she's a teenager. I mean, this is, like... That's what makes these books good, is they are not, like, they don't have these evolved emotional, like, correct way to be an adult. They're still learning all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and then, of course, Lockwood grabs Holly's bags on the way out.
I know. Let me get that for you, Holly.
Don't bother yourself. Let me. So they get to the home that they are working at, and starts, George, not there yet.
Still not there.
But I think they've gotten there before dark so that they can look around, see if they can try to find something that is the source, come up with ideas. Why someone wasn't there all day doing that, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess they have to sleep sometime.
But, like, George and Lucy were at the archives all day. Why wouldn't Lucy have gone to the house? Like, why wouldn't that have been her more important thing?
Yeah, that's true. Well, we also find out this whole thing became a little bit more urgent because the client called up and is like, I want this over by tonight. And I don't think Lockwood knew that in the morning. So
yeah, Lockwood had to go see her.
That's why Holly's coming, is because he's like, we just need all hands on deck. Like, we got to figure this out.
Because he has to do it like a real agency.
Right. Not like the way they do things, but like a real grown-up would do it.
I just want to shake everyone. Yeah, so they do sort of set up some things and get some circles and blah, blah, blah. They are a little bit worried that the staircase itself might be the source, which would be unfortunate.
Could you imagine how much that would cost? You probably can't even replace that type of thing.
I mean, she's rich. It's fine. And then Lucy has that really petty moment where Holly says, what can I do? And she says, go make some tea. It's terrible.
And Lockwood is so like, bad. That's not cool. Like, don't be like that. I feel like Lockwood does dig back at her. This does feel like he's doing it on 100%.
Purpose. Oh, yeah. Right here? Yeah, he knows here.
Yeah, where he's like, oh, she can be with me in the circle with me, and you can handle yourself, and you'll be as far away from me as possible.
100. That had to be.
Yeah.
Like, or he's the biggest idiot ever. Not in like a teenage boys don't understand teenage girls way, but just in a, he's lived with this girl for a year. He knows that she likes to work as a team.
Yeah.
And so he's like, no team for you. Bye.
Right.
Which is mean to an extent. Like, I feel like they always have a buddy system happening.
Yeah.
Like everything in this chapter that happens, if somebody had been with Lucy, if they had waited for George, if anything, like it would not have happened if somebody had been with Lucy.
Yeah.
And
even Skull.
Well, even Skull, yeah.
Yeah, Skull's not here, by the way.
Yeah, because Holly is.
Because Holly's here.
Which, I'm sure Lucy loves that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that haunts Lockwood, too.
Mm-hmm.
That he sent her up there a little maliciously by herself. And then almost died.
I keep thinking about what you said, too, about how he brought them into that room and it was like a 1 step forward, 2 steps back, that he's like pushed her away.
Yep.
And that this is kind of the result of that. I think that's right. It's especially right here. Because I was kind of reading this book where, like what I said before, where I felt like, oh, we have achieved closeness, so I don't need to like show you closeness. But this is like mean. This is not close.
And even, it's not even the actions, but the way that he says it. Like, obviously, Lucy was going to go up and be in a circle by herself. That's what they did last night. Right? But the way that he's like, well, Holly can stay with me and you can go be by yourself.
Yeah.
Like, it's terrible.
And she says, like, she watches him go away and she's all hot-eyed.
Yeah.
Which just feels so sad.
And then the next scene is her basically being like, well, I don't want to be with Lockwood anyway.
Yeah,
I'm just going to read my book, which probably belonged to his dead parents.
She goes back over the whole thing of like looking up Jessica and like I said, how that felt bad to her because she found out more from an article than she did from him. But it's like somebody hurts your feelings and then you just kind of pour over all the wounds between you sometimes and be like,
yeah,
this thing and that thing. And eventually, though, the haunting does start back up. George is still not back. But the haunting kicks off with the scuffle in the basement, and then the footsteps go all the way up, and there's a confrontation at the top and a fall down the middle of the stairs.
And then they all kind of regroup in the basement, I think. And they talk about how they're going to sort of do a salt mop, like a salt water mopping, and see if that cleans up some of the stuff. And Lockwood again sends Lucy upstairs by herself to do a salt mop in the attic.
Right.
And this is where everything goes badly. Because Lucy notices right away that the footprints have already gone, even though it's been much less time.
Which was why we did all this setup, so that we would notice these differences.
And then the smaller of the ghosts has come to chat.
Right.
Or, well, has come to get Lucy, but Lucy wants to connect. And thinking that the kid is the victim in all this, she tries to make a connection with him and find out what's going on, which, I don't know, I think this makes, like, she definitely needs a buddy. You know, she needs someone there to watch her. But this makes sense to me because everybody thought the same thing, that the smaller ghost was the victim. And her, even if she's not trying to talk with them, her connecting with the ghosts previously has what led to her figuring out where the source is.
Oh, no, I think this is really, really well set up. I don't think there's any way that you could see this twist coming. And like you said, everything in all of the other books and all of that is like, this is the thing to do. I think her judgment's off too, though, because she's 100%. So upset.
Yeah, no, she's definitely way too in her head and thinking not only that what they all assumed about the smaller ghost being the victim, but also that she has to show Lockwood that she can do this, that she's better than Holly.
Yeah.
So she needs this to work for her.
She knows that the iron circle is like messing up her ability to communicate, and her sword is interrupting her psychic powers. So she steps out of the circle, throws her sword away, and concentrates to lock in that connection.
But like previously, when we've seen her connect with a ghost, she always gets a feel for them. Like if they're malicious or not. And she does not here, or she doesn't allow herself to here, because again, she needs this to work for her.
Yeah. It doesn't feel to me like she's like, oh, this would work better without my sword. It really feels like a suggestion from the ghost.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that she's not as connecting as she is, and she's a little bit more like ghost lock type of thing.
Right, yeah.
Like he's connecting with her instead of the other way around. Like that doesn't sound like it should be different, but it is.
Yeah, and she can hear the voices of Holly and Lockwood yelling at her faintly, but she's like tuning them out, tuning into the ghost. And then George bursts in and starts yelling for her. And we get the twist reveal that this is not Little Tom. Little Tom, the big one was the big Tom. Guy. Yeah. And so this guy is the kid is the murderer. Yeah. Robert Cook is the little guy, and stabbed the big guy and then got him to fall off the roof or whatever. Not the roof, but like
the attic.
The attic.
Top of the stairs. And then the ghost kind of comes for Lucy, and she does come back into her mind quick enough to sort of scramble away. And eventually she sort of has to flip herself over the banister and kind of hang there.
Yeah.
To get away from the ghost. All the while the other three are running up the stairs, and Lockwood leaps across from a lower stairs to where Lucy is to save her from the ghost. And he manages to save her from the ghost, but then he knocks himself out, so he can't pull her up.
Yeah, he does like a sword swipe through the ghost that makes it, it's about to grab her. The whole thing, Stroud is so visual, and he's really good at that. And it's very easy to picture this, and is so heroic and cool. It'd be cool to see this on the show. It reminded me the first episode of the show in the podcast. We talked about how Lucy falls off that staircase and grabs onto the picture. And you were like, I wonder if they're doing this so that later they can do the same kind of shot. And instead of Lockwood pulling her up, it'll be somebody else.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is what she's talking about, is this part here.
Yeah, because that didn't happen in the first book.
No. In the Annabelle Ward house, she doesn't fall off the stairs like that. But that would be super cool if they did that.
Yeah.
Because you're sure it's going to be Lockwood that pulls her up. And it's Holly. And you're like, what?
It's terrible. And then George also gets in there. Like fishermen dragging in a catch.
Yeah. No one said that to her. She said that to herself. But
yep.
And she saw the last line, I saw Lockwood lying face down on the boards.
Yeah. And then things get worse. Yay.
Things get worse.
That's just what Caitlin wants. More attention.
You thought it was tense, but it can get worse.
I just like everybody to scream at each other for 10 minutes, and then we can move on,
All right. So the funniest part.
Yeah, was there any jokes these chapters? I guess the adults being useless.
That's pretty good.
I guess that's all we got. Yeah.
There is a tiny mean moment where it's like Bobby Vernon is made from the shavings of other agents or something that.
I do enjoy a small Bobby Vernon joke.
But yeah, mostly it's just terrible and sad.
God, I just want to get to book 4 already. I love book 4. Most punk rock has to be George demanding that research from Kipps, because I can't think of anything else.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Lockwood doing that leap is not It's pretty badass. I don't think it's punk rock. So yeah.
No, because he's just terrified.
He might as well have yelled Jessica while he did it.
No, it's about Lucy too. Because he sent her up there by herself when he was mad at her.
I just keep thinking about how he failed to save his sister. Whatever that journalist
that's terrible.
wrote. He's terrible. Like, I won't fail this time. And then he does. He like face plants, gets a concussion.
I mean, he did save her, though. Well, he saved her from the ghost, so if she had died, it wouldn't have been the ghost. It would have been the fall. Oh, yeah. That would have been bad for Lockwood. Yeah. That would have been bad. That would have been bad for Holly, too. It would have been bad for most of them.
Especially bad for Skull. But yeah.
Skull would just never know what happened.
Oh.
Anyways, obviously our main character did not die.
Yeah, but I agree. George being like, don't throw that away, give it to me. I'm better than a trash can. No, that's not how it is. He kind of stands up to Kips, though, and he's like, I can do it. Give it to me. It's
not in their usual, like, let's insult one another way. It's in a, no, I know what I'm doing, give it to me way.
Yeah.
All right. So if you want to follow the show or reach out to us to tell us how wrong we were about something, you can do so on Twitter at Lockwood Podcast. Or you can follow me on Twitter at Inferior Caitlin.
You can send emails to us, contact@hologrammedia.com, or go to hologrammedia.com and scroll down to the bottom, and there is a form you can fill out that will send your message to us.
And remember to make yourself some whole wheat waffles. Sounds good. You didn't say record?
I didn't.
So I hit it when you probably would have.
Okay.
I enjoy your self-sabotaging. Because you're editing this episode. All right. Shall we begin?
Yep.
Welcome
Seriously. Sorry. I'm just looking at Mo. He's like, he just started snoring deeper. He's like,
nice.
Like, okay. All right, man.
Welcome to the problem. Oh, I don't like that.
And they're like, yeah, who has the smallest feet here? And George is like, I messed it up. And George is like, Holly does, obviously.
To have all of the adults ever in the world be so clueless and useless. Spoiler, that feeling never goes away.
Yeah, even when you're an adult.
Even when you're one of them. And then they all kind of regroup in the basement, I think. They all regroup somewhere because they're chatting.
Yeah,
and
they
having
talk
tea.
about it.
I think maybe they're in the kitchen. Whatever, they're somewhere.
Mojo, stop doing that. It's gross. It's good. He didn't listen. That's good.
I don't have an and remember.
And remember, you failed to save your sister.
Jeez.